Marcellus shale could end up being the livelihood of thousands of Pennsylvanians. With this new perspective, we scratched the surface and began to see things in a new light.
And our work is showing that this is doable.
It's incredible. If you go out to the mid-state, we took a trip out there, and the amazing thing was that there's so many jobs. I mean, we went out to Bradford County, and this was an area that had had some hard times out there. And in fact, there was so many people working that it's really incredible. We went into the county courthouse out there and talked to the recorder of deeds, and they had. I said, "Well, I'm a reporter from Pittsburgh," and this guy said, "Oh, I'm from Pittsburgh too." And it turned out there were so many people working out there. They've come from all over the country, and so there was a guy doing title searches. He was from Washington County, and I started asking around. The woman next to him was from Dallas. They're just the plus is that there are so many economic benefits from the drill.
Really, the jobs, the economic potential for economic impact, and the fact that we have a large supply of natural gas that is readily available with these new and emerging technologies for extraction. That is local for us in Pennsylvania, but also has the ability to supply the entire eastern seaboard with natural gas for a number of years.
The Marcellus shale play is the largest in the country. It is estimated to contain as much as 500 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. To compare, the Barnett Shale in Texas contains only 2.5 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. So far, the Barnett Shale is worth $1 trillion. If Marcellus lives up to a fraction of its potential, this could lead to high amounts of monetary benefits. The Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection expects at least $1 trillion for Pennsylvania landowners. The Marcellus shale industry has already created 88,000 jobs this year. In response to environmental concerns, the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection claims that contaminations in Pennsylvania are not the result of Marcellus shale drilling. In fact, Ellen Eichler, regional manager of the Pennsylvania DEP, stated that of the 2.2 million private water wells in Pennsylvania, 40% of the wells tested were already contaminated before drilling began. In order to reduce the years of fresh water and truck emissions, many companies are now recycling their produced water. The amount of chemicals that are added to the water make up only a fraction of the frack water, about 0.44%. Not all chemicals are used at once. Specific circumstances decide the best way to extract gas. The Marcellus shale is also deeper than other shale plays, from 3,000 to 7,000 feet, making it not comparable to other drilling sites in other states.
My name is Kelvin Gregory. I am a professor of civil and environmental engineering at Carnegie Mellon University, and my expertise is specifically in environmental microbiology. But what I do within that is I look at geochemistry, biogeochemistry, so how microorganisms influence the transformation of metals and other elements in natural systems. What has been emerging over the last really couple years on the Marcellus is a novel approach, which has not been used in the other shale gas formations, such as the Barnett Shale in Texas is probably the most famous. And so what we're doing now on the Marcellus is a reuse of the flowback water in an attempt to close the water usage cycle. And so what we're able to do is put sound science research and data behind these processes so that we can go to the public and regulators and legislators and say, here is a technology that works. We can do this right. We can do this in a way that minimizes freshwater withdrawals. We can do this in a way that minimizes the risk of hauling and treatment and so forth, minimize the externalities beyond the environment, but the degradation of roadways and roadway traffic and the exhaust from trucks and so forth. We can minimize that. We can do this right. And here's the technology that's going to do it, and here are the numbers that prove that it's doable.
Dr. Gregory talked to us about all the improvements of hydraulic fracturing over the years. He encourages people not to believe everything that they hear.
Quite interesting.
Drilling has been done for more than 100 years. Hydraulic fracturing has been done for probably 60 years. There are over 1 million hydraulic fracture wells that have been done, and a very small number of them have led to contamination. This has been a very rapidly evolving topic that has a great deal of frustration on the extreme sides of the issues, and within that there is a gray area, but it's difficult to operate in these gray areas when there's so much hyperbole surrounding the topic, and it's easy to get caught up in on either of the extreme sides without having the information to operate sort of in the middle of all of this rush out, all that. This is just me personally. I wouldn't rush out and point the finger at natural gas development until I was convinced that that was the direct cause of the problem water. But that's me. I'm a numbers person. I like to see the data. I am not convinced of anything until I've seen it, until I've seen the data once, and then I've seen it again. Again, there's an awful lot of hyperbole that is readily available to the public on the internet, and in the worst cases there's misdirection, and I would say it's with the intent of misleading the public.
But we've looked and we found that there are, I think, 11 associate's degrees and 10 certificate programs that do match up with positions in the industry. As I mentioned, everything from office managers to IT support to some of the advanced manufacturing programs that we have that are out of West Hill Center. A lot of those programs match right up with needs that the industry says they're going to have. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be one of those new programs that's created to get people ready for jobs in the industry.
How would the CCAC expect the Marcellus industry to grow?
Well, we're still trying to figure that out. A lot of it, I think, will depend on how the government regulation and taxation works out for the industry.
Okay, so how is the government involved? In the state of Pennsylvania, the Department of Environmental Protection, the state agency, licenses the drillers, and then it goes out and makes sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, that there aren't any environmental problems. What has happened here is that the state, when they first started out, even the regulators didn't know much about the Marcellus. It's a very different drilling process than going for the shallow gas that's been going on in Pennsylvania for 150 years. So they had to first get themselves up to speed. But what the agency also has done is that it increased its fees, and then it used the increased money to hire more investigators. And so those investigators are the ones going out and looking at the drillers and making sure that there aren't violations. They're the ones that say there is a problem with an impoundment. They're the ones that will find it and find the driller.